Good evening, everyone. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Gavra Racing here at the wonderful Imola circuit for the final round of the season for Tier 2 of this weekend league. And boy, oh boy, have we got two final races coming up for you around this fantastic circuit, steeped in history, of course, which we'll come on to later on. And of course, last week, Gavra Racing had its own little piece of history made when Money Game 44 was crowned champion of the Tier 2 lobby around the Jeddah circuit at Saudi Arabia. So for Money Game tonight, I am certain he'll be doing all he can to get a race win, but the pressure is completely off him in the coming two races. But before we go any further, just want to briefly give you a run through of the championship standings, just so you're aware of where everyone's up to. At the moment, it is Money Game, of course, the new champion of Tier 2 on 192 points. Then there's a bit of a fight going on for second. We have Jorty 2003 in the Haas. He is on 136 points. Il Cecco is third on 131, so 5 points in it to be the runner-up this season. Fourth is USA Toy TA in the Alpine on 104. And then fifth is the Steps VRBS in the McLaren of 89 points. But Spannel is also right there in a fight for 50s on 86, just one spot back. The Constructors Championship, it is a lot closer. Williams are on 196 and Aston Martin are on 194. So we could have a new Constructors champion this evening. It will either go towards the two Williams drivers in terms of Money Game, and of course, just looking to see actually for that would be Sick Boy, number 16, or it will go the way of the Aston Martin crew on 194 points of Il Cecco and Psycho SM. Now I can't see Psycho in, well, of course, Psycho, of course, moving up to Tier 1, so he won't be there. So Il Cecco will be fighting 2 versus 1 for the remaining two races this evening, so hopefully Il Cecco can put in a good performance. He's just coming out of the pits now as I say that, so we'll see how he gets on. Well, now you're watching the McLaren of the Steps, who's out on circuit. He's just coming through the chicane there at Variante Alta as I speak. For everybody else in the Constructors, though, third place is Haas on 149, Alfa Romeo are fourth on 132, and Alpine are fifth on 130. So again, very close number of fights going on around this wonderful circuit. As I mentioned, Imola, been around for a long time. It's gone under a number of names. Of course, it's been known as the European Grand Prix. It's been known as the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix at the moment. So there's quite a lot that this race has had. A number of revisions since the circuit opened way back when. It's going to be a long time actually since Imola was opened. I believe the first race was held in Formula One was in 1980, but the track actually broke ground in the 1950s. This wonderful circuit, like I say, has gone through so many iterations, now 4.9 kilometers long. So the drivers will have to get used to the quite technical demands of this track. It's not an easy one. It's an old school circuit. It's a lot more unforgiving than the more modern F1 circuits that we have nowadays. There's not much in terms of space for runoff. And of course, with it being in Italy, the Ferrari drivers and the Alfa Romeo drivers, of course, are very well supported around this region, and they'll be very pleased at the moment because the Tifosi have a man at the front of the grid, and that is Jay Evans 11, who took his first win, of course, with Gavra back in Mexico a couple of weeks ago. He's on pole position at the moment provisionally. Then you got the Steps up in second. That's a very good effort from him. He was fighting on the podiums earlier this season. He was in and around 4th and 5th place. Whether he can end the season off well, we'll soon find out. Money Game, our current champion, of course, is in 3rd place. He'll be moving up to Tier 1 next season, will Money Game. Of course, that having said, there is a little proviso on that, is that will be the last time we'll see Tier 2 racing on F1 22, the game by Codemasters and obviously published by EA Sports. Gavra will be moving on to F1 23 after tonight. The new game comes out in just a couple of days' time on Friday. So we're currently on Sunday today. So just 6 days from now, 5 days from now, in fact, the new game will release. And for those that have got early access, that'll be coming out on Tuesday for them. So they'll get a couple of days of early access for that lot. JMB Surreal's there in 4th place. Obviously, Alpha Tauri, the team that used to be Minardi back in the day. They're based in Faenza. As Il Cecco puts himself into 4th place. That's a good lap in the 1 minute 16s. Surreal is also the only other driver in the 16s. Then you've got Luffy in 6th. We had a really good set of races last time out, did Luffy, at the track that we were at last week, of course, which was Saudi Arabia. He put in a decent performance, I believe. I think he got into the points in the main race. I think he was 9th in the end, which is good to see him up there in the points. You got Roby HT in 7th. He's kind of tailed off through the season as it's gone on. He looked very quick at the start, but he's just maybe had a little bit of bad luck from time to time. But maybe Roby can bounce back this evening. You got Sick Boy in 8th place, jostling around the last 2 drivers in the top 10, which is 9th and 10th of Tutty Boy there, occupying that place. You got Milo Bello in 11th, and I'm going to come to the only man in the Tier 2 lobby who's yet to score a point this season, and that is Scatcher81. How wonderful it would be to see him score points in the last race of the season. He hasn't scored any. I think his best result is 12th. So he's come close, but he's not been quite there yet. So hopefully the Mercedes can pull something out of the bag. Would be really, really good to see. Just a question that's coming onto the Twitch stream there, Free Rudolph. You've just put when the last sign-ups F123. The evaluation race is on the 2nd of July. So today's date at the moment, I believe, is the 10th, I want to say. That's the 11th, in fact. You can tell I've had a long day. But it is the 11th of June, so you've got a couple of weeks yet before you need to sign up for the evaluation race here with Gavra. And then the full season starts round 1 at Australia on the 9th of July. So lots of action, loads of space left in Tier 2 if you want to jump in for this tier. And then Cable Monkey is 14th on a 154.2, which is certainly not representative. We're following the Mercedes of what I believe is Scatcher coming around the track at the moment. I could be incorrect, actually. I think it's Roby HT who we're following currently, as he takes the lawnmower line over the Variante Alta there. Not ideal. Italy Toy TA's got himself into 2nd place in the Alpine. That's a good, commendable effort from him. He had a bit of misfortune last week, did you, Italy? He won the sprint race, but it all just went wrong very quickly for him in the feature race and was involved in a number of incidents. He finished 6th on circuit, but I know that there's been a few application of penalties applied, so definitely didn't score that 6th place in the end. The step's still there in 3rd. A couple more drivers now in the 116, showing you just how competitive this league is. Everybody pretty much in the teens, apart from Scatcher and Cable Monkey, but I expect the pair of them to go up. And there you go, Cable Monkey goes into 11th place on a 1 minute 17.8. Let's see if we can get on board. Let's ride on a wonderful lap of this circuit if we can. I'm just trying to see who is out on circuit, potentially building up for a lap. Luffy's coming through towards that turn number 14 and 15 chicane. Very tricky corner to get right. And the Alpha Tauri's out on circuit. That's JMB Surreal just clipping the curbs there. He's definitely not on a lap. He's apparently out on circuit. Tell you what, race director, if you cut forward to Money Game, see if he does do that. See if Gav can hear me. Over to 4th place of Money Game, if we can get a lap on board of him. He's about to start a lap. There we go. Let's go on board of a lap of our current champion then of Tier 2. He comes towards the DRS activation zone there, and the rear wing slot opens, giving the drivers an extra 10 to 15 miles an hour. Through turn 1, completely flat in the dry conditions as he approaches turns 2, 3 and 4 at Tamburello. On the brakes, 4th gear, runs a little bit deep into the corner. Over the line, there's a car. Oh, that was awkward. That was very awkward. I think that was Luffy. He was just in the wrong place, so that's going to button off the end of Money Game's lap. He won't be happy about that. He'll be very disappointed. And unfortunately, nobody else looks to be. There was someone going onto a lap. I want to say that is that Cable Monkey? It is Cable Monkey on a lap. So he's going through turn number 3. through turn 4, completely flat in these F122 cars, and then this left-right here at the Villeneuve corner runs a bit deep into the left-hander, still keeps it on the road. Then on the brakes down into third gear for Tosa, second gear for Cable Monkey, short shifts a little through the gears. So far, so not too bad at all. Then he's got the left-hander at Piratella, turn 9, 6th gear, 5th gear, drops right away down. I suspect that Cable Monkey is probably going to back out of this lap because he's been running a bit wide at the corners. Let's watch his second sector time though, because the timing beam is just going to come up there and he's half a second down. Over the curbs, at Variante Alta. And he's still carrying on with this lap, but he's going to run out of the RX. Might just hinder the rest of his lap. Into these two left-handers known as Rivazza. Still carrying on his Cable Monkey and comes into the pit lane, so he doesn't finish that lap off. Less than 4 minutes to go now in this session though. And the drivers will need to make the attack realistically if they want to move themselves up through the field. One driver who's about to do that is Cable Monkey's teammate, Uithli Toy TA, who's going to go onto his push lap now. He's got no traffic in front of him. So we got Uithli Toy TA barreling towards turn 2. On the brakes, down into 4th gear, nicely clipped with the apexes there through the Tamburello corners. Then through the gears, up to 7th, up to the 8th gear, which he does indeed for Villeneuve. 6th gear down to 4th, and nicely done so far. And he's 2 tenths up on this lap on the approach to Tosa. 3rd gear, hesitant on the power, then he gets on it eventually. So far, so good. Swings over the right-hand side with the blind crest for the left-hander at turn 9. Nice and committed on the power out of Piratella. Through turns 10, 11, then into the Aqua Minerale. 3rd gear, this is a really good lap from Uithli Toy TA so far. He's just got a couple of corners left to finish this off now. And he's 2 3/4 tenths up. That's fantastic. 3rd gear over the big sausage curbs. He's done nicely. He's not run too far over the limits for the track penalties. Turn 16, this right-hander underneath the Pirelli 150 sign. Brakes a little bit after 100 tyre barrier just on the right-hand side. Through this left-hander, 3rd gear all the way to the exit. This is a very good lap. This will surely see Uithli Toy TA go on to pole. It is indeed. So 1:15.8. Can Jay Evans or anybody else respond to that? Because that was a fabulous effort from the number 25 Alpine. That was great to watch. Who else is on a lap? The Steps is on a lap at the... Well, he's not on a lap, actually. He's on out lap, building the tyres. That camera angle was just a little bit false for me there. It looked as if he was going onto one. Jay Evans is approaching the penultimate corner. He showed some really good speed in the last few weeks as Jay Evans. Will he be one to watch full next season? A couple of really good results in qualifying. Just needs to bring it home in the race, get a podium. He's got that win at Mexico. You could see the confidence it's given the Ferrari driver. He's clipping those apexes nicely through turns 2, 3 and 4. On the lap he goes. Steps building up to it. Money Game is on his flying lap now as well. Uithli Toy TA, the only driver in the 1:15s. Jay Evans is up in the first sector by about 0.04 of a second. Steps is just going around the final corner now. I'm just clicking through the drivers. You're all watching the Ferrari, of course. I'm telling you where everybody is in terms of their position on circuit. JMB Surreal's just about to go on to a lap. So is Il Cecco. A couple of people have left this very late, and that is Luffy into the wall on the exit of turn 4. So not ideal for the Ferrari. He's not going to... And he's been disqualified for trying to reverse off the track. That's very harsh from the game. Jay Evans is up again. This is it, the penultimate 2 corners. Can the Ferrari get onto pole position? Can he emulate what so many Ferrari drivers have done around this circuit before? To the line, it's a 1:15.6. That was a fabulous final sector from the Ferrari, provisionally on pole. Now can anybody respond to that? Money Game is done. He's not going to improve. What about the Steps? He's 3rd in the McLaren. Coming up towards Variante Alta, he's not improving. In fact, he's quite far down on his sector. JMB Surreal is also on a lap. There's a couple of cars who are further around this track than you might realise. JB Surreal being one of them, Il Checho was another. I'm watching those two at the moment. You're watching the McLaren of Steps VRBS, who's coming towards the line now. And this lap time isn't going to be enough to get him past where he is currently. Il Checho is flying. He's 4.5 tenths up. Can he find any more time in this final sector to not only get him on the front row, but maybe pole? Third gear clips the apex nicely at turn 17 and again at turn 18. What is this lap time going to be from the Aston Martin? It's a fight for the constructors. Can he get in front of Money Game? He can. He gets up to third. That is a good lap from the Aston Martin. JMB Surreal pulls into the pits. Tussy Boy's on a lap. Cable Monkey coming towards the line. That's an improvement to 9th. Can Tutty Boy improve? He can't. So it's Jay Evans. Pole position for the Ferrari driver. I'm right in saying this is his first pole position of the season. And the number 8 is going to fly the flag for the Tifosi and the Ferrari team. Can he convert that into a race win? He'd be emulating what the Ferrari team have done today at Le Mans. 24 hours. Spoilers for anybody who's obviously not watched 24 hours. I do apologise. Can he emulate that team? That's a great lap. So he's in the 1 minute 15s with a 1:15.6. 2 tenths back on the front row with him is the Italian at his home race of Italy Toy TA. Il Checho there in 3rd. The Steps VRBS is 4th, with Money Game in 5th place. Not as much on the line for Money Game, so he can just run round as he needs to. JMB Surreal is 6th, Roby HT 7th, Sick Boy in 8th, Cable Monkey 9th, and Tutty Boy rounds out the top 10. Drivers that are outside the top 10, you have Jossing, you have Milo Bello, Scatcher 81 at his home race, and Luffy, who was disqualified rather harshly, it has to be said. The drivers will be, making their last minute preparations now to see who can get the best start, who can make sure that they hold on to the drivers ahead of them. Obviously, with Jorty not being here, this is an open goal really for Il Checho to get second in the Drivers' Championship. But there's also that 2-point battle between Williams and Aston Martin for the constructors. That'll be a plot point to keep an eye on. And it's raining here at Imola. Well, now that is going to throw a spanner in the works for the drivers. They've qualified on a dry setup. They're going to be finding this one especially slippery. And the curbs around this region of Emilia-Romagna are certainly a lot more difficult to combat, unlike traditional F1 circuits on the calendar. So the drivers have to be extra aware of that. But we are seconds away. It looks like it'll be full wet conditions from what I can see on my screen. But we will see in a moment what the tyre strategy will be and who can make the best start in these tricky conditions. So it's the Ferrari on the right-hand side, the Alpine on the left. Who will make the best start? And the race is live here from Imola. Looks like a good start for Jay Evans. Italy Toy TA's got away relatively fine on those wet tyres. He slots in behind. Steps has had an amazing start. He's up into 2nd place. Great launch from the McLaren, and he's going to be comfortable into turn 2. Everybody getting through just about okay. Sick Boys all over the curbs. A little bit of contact. Cable the Monkey and Jossing have gone round. Scatch is facing the wrong way, but he's got away with it, and Luffy's in the wall and out, sadly for him. But Jay Evans leads the way, and they're all fighting for traction. And that's going to be Italy Toy going up the inside of the steps. He had a little wiggle on the exit of Villeneuve. Who's going to have the better traction off the corner? Looks like the Alpine's going to have the inside line for turn 9. Need to give each other space, gents. And they have done. They get through okay. But Jay Evans has a second already, thanks to that little bit of a scrap. Il Checho's there in 4th. JMB Surreal's 5th. He's in front of Money Game, who's dropped the spot at the start. And that's Cable Monkey who's gone off the road. That's a Red Bull wide at the bottom of Aqua Minerale rather. And Il Checho's gone backwards. What's happened there? Oh, a little bit of contact between Il Checho and Surreal. Money Game's just running off the road. Doesn't want to overtake off circuit, and he can't do that, so he slots himself back in. But Il Checho looked as if he had a little moment on circuit, and that's Money Game diving up the inside of the Alpha Tauri of JMB Surreal, and he's going to have to let that one go. Will JMB Surreal, he has to slot in behind. Roby's right there with them as well, and there's about a second gap back to the Williams of Sick Boy. And it's Tutty Boy, then it's just the two boys together on circuit, Jossing, then Miller Bello. Cable Monkey's a bit further back and catches there as well. But lap one completed, and USA Toy already putting the pressure on the Tifosi favourite of Jay Evans. Italy Toy just trying to follow in the wheel tracks, of course. 16 laps for both of these two races that they're going to be competing in. Italy already looks as if he's got the bit between his teeth. He looks very quick. That is Roby trying to go around the outside at Tosa. He's on the curb. That was an audacious move from the Mercedes for sixth spot, but he just didn't have the traction on the curb to get past. But Roby looking like he's got some speed in these wet conditions. He's putting the pressure all over the back of that AlphaTauri. He looks very confident. JMB looks like he's struggling a little bit in his opening laps. Wow, action already then at this circuit. Just to confirm, everybody is on the wet compound tyre. There hasn't been much movement in terms of positions outside of Cable Monkey dropping 3 places. It's been very, very clean so far. Everyone's just running in a couple of different groups out on track at the moment. Italy Toy TA is right behind the Ferrari as Money Game sets a new fastest lap. Money Game's got himself back into a position where he's clear of JMB Surreal. Look at Money Game, look at the inside of Il Checho for 4. As you're following the Alpine of USA Toy TA, you can see how much confidence that the Italian driver has. Right behind Jay Evans at the moment as Roby HT makes that move. And Sick Boy loses 2 places for the price of 1 as well, going into what looked to be going into Villeneuve, so that's a very good move. Now, what's the pace of Roby? He looks quick at the moment, as does Tutty Boy, but he's got that Williams, a Sick Boy alongside him, but he couldn't pull away from him. Steps looking at a podium. Should be a very good result for McLaren in their fight to get into the top 3 spots in the Constructors' Championship. Sick Boy's back in front of Tutty Boy, so those two are having a really, really interesting fight at the moment. Italy Toy TA's all over the back of Jay Evans. He runs into the back of Jay Evans on the approach to Ravazza. I think any damage for the Alpine, but that is not ideal. Doesn't want to be doing that again. Il Checho trying to get back past Money Game, both using the ERS, but Il Checho gets back in front. Looks like he's going to have to defend from this car, and Roby has gone into the pits. As we watch Money Game look to the inside of the Aston Martin, but there's not enough room there. Now, I am watching the pit stop because Roby has gone onto the intermediate compound tyres. Now, will this play out for her? I'm going to keep an eye on the gap. You watch, of course, the fight at the front. But Roby HT going onto the intermediate tyres. He clearly feels it's ready for that compound. We will find out shortly whether that is the case. We've got a yellow flag that's scattered around. He's carried on, no damage, no harm done. The track does look a little bit drier than it did at the start. So whether that will have any effect, we'll find out. But Italy Toy is finding out the hard way how difficult it can be to overtake around Imola. It's a very narrow circuit. He's right under the rear wing of that Ferrari. Money Game and Il Checho are still fighting for 4th place, but this time Money Game goes through and he gets to the place. And JMB Surreal goes past Il Checho as well for good measure. And that is a swap for 4th place for Money Game. Il Checho trying to go around the outside at Ravazza. He's going to get run out of road. And indeed he does. He drops into 6th place. And that's the steps going to the pits. So it must be time. A couple of drivers are certainly thinking it's time for the intermediates. So Steps goes in, and he was comfortably in 3rd as well, thanks to the fight between Money Game and JMB Surreal. They thought it was the right opportunity for them to go in pit. Just watching the gap. Roby is pulling a lot of time out of Scatcher at the moment. And where is the steps going to feed out? Well, he's going to be clear of Roby as he comes out onto those. Well, no conditions now for the steps. He's got to get himself into the groove. He's got to get the tyres up to a temperature that he knows he's comfortable with. There are a couple of penalties around on the circuit, but I'm going to keep an eye on that gap for the leaders. This is already shaping up to be a wonderfully fascinating race here at Imola. Italy Toy TA still can't get past J Evans, but will they make the decision to pit for intermediate compound tyres? I've got to say the Steps is closing the gap between himself and the race leader, only marginally, but it is enough to put him onto the back of the leading duo. I'm going to watch to see. Let's see if they come around this final corner. Will either of them go into the pits? J Evans does. So J Evans is in the pits, the race leader. Money Game decides to come into the pits, as does JMB Surreal. Il Checho stays out. We've got to wait a few moments before Tutty Boy, and they're all piling into the pits. So clearly, those that have now just gone out for another lap, they're going to have to really find some speed on this wet compound tyre, because the intermediates look to be the tyre to be on at the moment. J Evans is trundling down the pit lane at about 50 mile an hour. I'm looking to see where he feeds out. He's going to be in front of the Steps, but look at the fastest lap from Roby HT. He was the first one to do it. And the Steps is only a second and a bit behind J Evans, so that's worked out really well for him. Roby's up to 6th. Now, you've got to look at the front two drivers of USA Toy TA and Il Checho and think you guys are on the wrong compound tyre at this moment. Wow. Let's see if J Evans makes any inroads. Oh, USA Toy TA runs wide over the curbs at the Variante Alta. And J Evans is closing the gap down. So the intermediate tyres are clearly the faster compound. So the front two are going to have to surely dive into the pits, unless there's more weather coming. And no, into the pits comes USA Toy TA, the race leader. Going to put on a set of intermediate compounds. I think Il Checho will do the same, and he does indeed. So where do those two feed out in relation to USA Toy, or rather, where do they feed out in relation to J Evans and the Steps? So USA doing 50 mile an hour, it'll take a lifetime, it will feel like, down this long Imola pit lane. He's just about to come out on circuit. J Evans is flying down at 196 miles an hour, and he's going to blast past the Alpine back into the lead. Where is the Steps? Not quite close enough, but you can see that that earlier pit stop has really paid off for the McLaren, and he's right there with the front two. So that decision from the McLaren has played him into this. Money Game is in 4th, Roby HT's up to 5th place. That earliest stop has worked out well for the Mercedes. Scatcher now going into the pits onto the intermediates as well. But that is a happy camper for Roby HT. He's gone from 7th to 5th. He's jumped past JMB Surreal and Il Checho, who's fallen to 7th place after starting in 3rd. So Aston Martin's got some work to do. JMB Surreal's shaping up to be good in these weather conditions. He's right with Roby. But J Evans leads by a second and a half, just over a second, so he gained a second. You see Toy again going out wide over the Variante Alta, and I think the Steps just lost a little bit of time there. The fight at the moment, the big fight, is for 5th place, because Roby HT is just in front of JMB Surreal, who certainly looks as if he's got some good speed in that AlphaTauri. Finished 10th last week. Did JMB Surreal in Tier 2. He did finish in 7th in Tier 1. AlphaTauri driving in both leagues at the moment. But I think he'll be happy with this drive so far. He'll want to get back past his sparring partner of Roby though. USA Toy again just showing where the speed is. He's got that gap down to J Evans. It's less than a second now. The question remains now, the rain certainly looks as if it isn't falling as hard as it was at the start of this race. And it does seem to be, just coming through the Variante Alta, it does seem to be that there is a dry line appearing at this chicane. I certainly saw it on a lap before, and there is a little bit of a dry patch coming up. So will it be dry enough for soft tyres at the end? I mean, that's not out of the realms of impossibility. But who will be brave enough to make that decision? That will be really... Oh, USA Toy with a huge crossover moment through the penultimate corner. He just about saved it and gathered it together. New Italy Toy has set the fastest lap. Despite losing that much amount of time, he's still set the fastest lap of the race. I think these weather conditions are getting drier lap by lap. Will it be worth pitting? That's the other question, you know. If the race gets to lap 12, lap 13, and you think, oh, maybe it's just on the crossover, is it worth pitting? Is it worth losing 25 seconds with 3 laps to go? That is a big question for everybody to answer. And I tell you who's pitting. Sick Boy is coming for a set of medium compound tyres, so maybe the track is already dry enough. Maybe the tyres, it's already at that point for the slick compound. Just watching Milo Bello, he's coming into the pits, but he's got a front wing change. He's gone for the intermediate tyre, so now that is brave from Sick Boy. He was... Oh, just watching Sick Boy in 11th place. He is so tentative on the throttle coming out of turn 4. He is the guinea pig that I will be watching. Everyone else will be watching the fights on circuit between the Atari and the Mercedes. Well, who will be brave enough to make that decision as Jay Evans does another fastest lap of the race? Oh, Sick Boy is losing a little bit of time. I think that's a lap too early. It was a brave call. I think he might just be a lap early. There's still a little bit of rain falling. But it was well worth the effort. He's losing time, unfortunately, to the race leaders. He's now gone over a minute behind Cable Monkey, rather the Ferrari of Jay Evans. Maybe we need another lap. I think it could be ready on the next lap. But I think the problem for Sick Boy is that he's just lost all the temperature out of his tyres. And that's one of the key parts. If you're one of the earlier drivers to pit, you've got to be so ready to keep the heat in the tyres. If you lose it, you lose even more time than what you would have done initially. Money Game has caught up to the back of the steps in the meantime for the fight for third place, the last spot on the podium. JB Surreal still following that Mercedes of Roby HT. Very close fight on. This part of the track looks a lot drier than what it did a lap ago. Does anybody decide to pit? No. They carried on for another lap. Look at that, USA Toy of Jay Evans just trading fastest lap. Scatcher has just driven past Sick Boy for 11th place. And that Williams just has no grip on the slick compound tyre. And he might have to just try and trundle round for a lap or two more before the temperature starts coming back. Jay Evans pulling that gap out though. He's looked a little bit more comfortable in the Ferrari since he used his little mistake that he had a couple of laps ago. Seems to have to worry too much about the car behind. There are good few fights now appearing on track. You know, the Steps and Money Game are separated by less than half a second, who we're following at the moment. You know, Roby HT still got J&B Surreal behind him, but they're also joined by Il Checho in the Aston Martin. Tutty Boy, Jossing and Cable Monkey are kind of running lonely races, but to get a couple of points on the board, I don't think they'll complain too much. Now we're going to go for another lap. That looks like the rain has certainly dried off, and no pit stops for the front two. Jay Evans, and again, WL2 takes fastest lap again. I don't forget they were doing 1:15s in the dry weather conditions. That's what they were doing for pole position. We're about 8 seconds away from that, and I'd say we're in the ballpark now. Providing you get a good heated set. Ooh, money game. Wow, that was so wide. I thought he was going to have a big wiggle out of the corner, but he just about managed to gather it up before anything happened. Anyone further back brave enough to try the dry tyre? No, no, they all carry on for another lap. So this is what I was saying before, everybody, that we're going to come on to lap 13. That is just a lapped car going slowly. It's actually Sick Boy who's gone slowly just to let the car to front through. Do you pit on lap 13? I hope that the soft compound tyres will be able to catch the intermediates with 3 laps to go. Will you decide to do that? Oh, look at you, Italy toys all over the back of the Ferrari. Might have took a lap or two just to re-energize where he needed to be, where he wanted to attack. Will either of them go into the pits this time around? This will be intriguing. Oh no, they don't. 123.5. We're getting quicker and quicker now. I think if you're a car that's running in 7th or 8th place, so actually the drivers I was saying before, Tutty Boy, Jossie and Cable Monkey, it's got to be worth going on for the dry tyres. And here we go, as I say it, Tutty Boy is making that decision. Why not? Absolutely, why not? It's well worth a shot. He's gonna lose 2 places to Jossie and Cable Monkey. But if he gets on the dry tyres, he might make that up very quickly. And it is a pair of red-walled Pirellis for the Alfa Romeo. So we'll have 3 laps to get those tyres fired up and maybe catch a couple of cars in front if it really does start to go bone dry. Normally when DRS is activated, that's the time to pick between the conditions. Italy Toy, though, is still putting the pressure on the Ferrari. This is a great drive from the pair of them at the moment. Jay Evans is just doing what he can to hold on. It's going to be a very intense last few laps. JMB Surreal is still stuck behind the Ferrari. And into the pits comes Jay Evans. And he's picked up a time penalty, would you believe, in the fight for the race victory. Jay Evans is going to kick himself at that. The steps is coming in, money game's coming in, so it is time for the dry compound tyre. As WL2 Toy TA sets another fastest lap of the race, Roby HT moves up. JMB Surreal comes up to the 4. He's going to look for a move as he'll check on JMB Surreal, but he can't get round him. Jossing has carried on. Cable Monkey hasn't got round up it. Tutty Boy, I'm just watching his times. He looks like he's matching the Alpine in 10th place. But now the question is, the dry tyres, are they going to be enough to get everybody caught up back to Italy Toy TA? The gap at the moment is 26.7 seconds. Oh, place your bets, ladies and gentlemen. Who is going to win this with 3 laps to go? Roby HT is up to 2nd place with JMB Surreal. But of course, Roby has a time penalty. JMB doesn't. Ilchecho also does. It's a big fight for 2nd. That looks dry. The circuit looks dry to me. And Jay Evans is lapping slightly quicker in the Alpine, in the Ferrari, as opposed to the Alpine. And Uisli is carrying on. And he does a 122 this time. Has the decision from Jay Evans cost him the race win? We're 2 laps from the end. Unless the circuit dramatically dries up, I think that Jay Evans might have just cost himself the chance at the race win here. It's definitely dry enough, there's no doubt about that, but I don't think he's going to be able to gain 14 seconds a lap with the time remaining. He's closing the gap on Jossing is Jay Evans. He's going to look to the inside line. Jossing can't really fight that one, and he doesn't. Jay Evans goes through to 5th place, and DRS is now enabled. Oh, look at this for third place. What a fight this is. JMB Surreal gets on the power a little bit earlier. Can he out-drag the Aston Martin up the hill? He can do, and he's back into third. But he runs wide at turn 9, and Ilchetcho's going to go past him and into third place. What a fight this is. This is all for the last spots on the podium. Roby HT is just hanging on by his fingernails. They're going to have DRS for the final lap of this race. If you've got ERS left, this would be the perfect time to use it. As USC Toy TA does another fastest lap, he's on the final lap and he's surely going to win this race. That decision to stay out has certainly netted him the race victory. But look at this on the final corner. DRS available for the drivers. Ilchetcho using everything that he's got, but he's not quite close enough yet. Now he starts closing that gap. Roby's going to have to defend. He's not going to do it. Up the inside. Oh, Roby tries to hold on, but he didn't quite get there. JMB Surreal's going to have a good exit. They can't fight too much. Here comes JMB Surreal for third place. He gets back through. I was going to say, they can't fight too much. JF Evans is flying on the soft tyres. He can see them. In fact, he's flying that quickly. Can he catch them before the end? The gap's only 4 seconds, 4 and a bit seconds. Oh, Roby's got his fans in the chat. They were praying for a podium. It just seems to be falling away from him. Money Game down in 7th place. Not going to be winning any rewards for that. But USC Toy TA rounds the final corner and he's going to win the first race of the evening here at Imola. We cut back to the fight for second place. Ilchetcho and Roby HT has gone past JMB Surreal. What's happened to the AlphaTauri? He's dropped away. Has he run out of fuel? In fact, he's been ghosted through. Ilchetcho's going to finish second. Roby is going to get a podium after all that. And Ilchetcho drops to third. Jay Evans ends up fifth. JMB Surreal, I think his ghost came through in the end. Jay Evans ends up fifth. The Steps is sixth. Money Game is seventh thanks to his penalty. Jossing will finish in 8th place. Tutty Boy and Cable Monkey will be 9th and 10th. Sick Boy, Mellow Bellow and Scatcher will see the flag shortly. Wow. What happened to JMB Surreal at the end? He was on for a podium. Roby HT takes his first podium of the season in that Mercedes. Staying out on the intermediate tyre was the right call in the end. I was questioning it earlier. Would it be enough time for the drivers who went onto the soft compound tyre? Would they have enough time to catch the intermediate runners? And the answer was clearly not. And Roby HT and Ilchetcho have benefited massively from that. And Roby is celebrating massively. I'm not surprised. And he gets driver of the day to boot as well. I'm sure that'll be a very happy Mercedes camp. Wow, what a race. Lots of intrigue. Started wet, ended up intermediate tyres, and then we even had dry running at the end, but the dry running came too late. And USD Toy TA, after all of his perseverance, he was stuck behind Jay Evans through that race. He ends up taking the race win because of that decision. And I'm sure he'll be so happy with that. He takes the race victory. Roby takes his first podium of the season. Aston Martin move themselves into the lead of the constructors thanks to that result. 15 points for Aston Martin, and it would be 6 points for Williams. A 9-point swing would see Williams will be on 202, and Aston Martin will be on 209. So Aston Martin lead by 7 points in this Constructors' Championship. JMB Surreal was 4th in the end. What could have been? He was so close to a podium. Jay Evans 5th in the end. That decision costing him dearly. Steps in 6th. Money Game 7th. Jossing in 8th. Tutty Boy 9th. Cable Monkey 10th. Sick Boy, Millabello, Scatcher all a lap down. And Luffy, sadly, not even making the end of the first lap. He retired from the race, but he'll be back for race 2, I'm sure. Jay Evans taking second place there. Sorry, fastest lap there, I should say. Which will be of little consolation to him, really. He'll have wanted that race win, that second win of the season. But that decision, you've got to make that call. And yeah, Jay Evans, in fact, saying that he made a mistake. Pitting for those tyres, unfortunately. Just going to take a little breather for a moment. So here we go then, we're getting ready for the second race of the evening. We've got a one-shot qualifying session. It'll be interesting, of course, to see how the drivers get on around this 4.9 kilometre circuit on a one-shot qualifying, of course. I'm trying to think whether there's one amazing statistic there was that during that race was that all three drivers who finished in the podium places were Italian. So that's the first time that that's happened in Gavra. I'm also trying to think in terms of, as we begin this qualifying session, when was the last time that happened in Formula One? I'm not 100% certain if it ever has, but if it was likely to have happened, it would have been in the 1950s. Let's have a look at this first sector then, to see who's leading as we come through the first couple of corners. It is Money Game. Our current champion of Tier 2. He is leading in the first sector. Come towards Aqua Minerale. At the exit of turn number 13. Money Game's still leading the way. Clips the curbs quite nicely. Just got 2 more corners to go. The Ferrari driver of Jay Evans being roared on by the Tifosi. I don't think he's going to be close enough unless Money Game bottles it out of the final corner. Here we go then from the Williams driver. Looks like he's going to get pole. And he does just the 116.088, a little bit slower than what we saw in the first qualifying session. But it is Money Game on pole position. Now it's Jay Evans in the Ferrari in second. Yuichi Toitier is third. The top three separated by less than 0.2 of a second. That's great speed from those three. JMB Surreal is fourth. Il Checho fifth. The Steps in sixth. Jossing up in seventh. That's good qualifying for the Red Bull. Eighth for the Alfa Romeo, Tutti Boy. Ninth is Sick Boy, and Cable Monkey is 10th, round out the top 10. Roby HT, Mello Bello, and Scatcher are the final runners outside of the top 10. Now, it was a dry qualifying session. Will we have a dry race? No, we don't have a dry race. We don't have a dry race. It's another wet one. So, a couple of seconds remaining before we start. The drivers have to contend again with another wet session for this final ever race of Tier 2 on F122. Oh, the two's there. But we've got the Williams on the right-hand side of Money Game and the Ferrari and Evans on the left. Who's going to make the best start? And the race is live once again. Good start for Money Game. Pretty much equal with Jay Evans, but that second gear phase from Jay Evans was fantastic. And he gets himself into the lead on the brakes into turn 2. Little bit of contact between the drivers. That's one of the Red Bulls that's jossing over the curb, and he's kept it clean. One of the other Alpines, I think it was Cable Monkey, the Steps has gone backwards just to compound his jump start as well, so that's not going to help him. But drama already in the opening phases. Money Game is back in front of Jay Evans. I didn't catch that. I was watching the chaos further back, but Money Game's ahead of the Williams. That is of the Ferrari, of course. But here we go then. So, the Ferrari looking a little bit twitchy at the moment. He's got to get himself into a rhythm, does Jay Evans. Doesn't want to make any mistakes in these opening couple of laps. He's got his sparring partner from race 1, Yuichi Toitier, right behind him. And the Steps lost a lot of time there. He's actually dropped from 6th to 12th. Not ideal for him. Joss is in 6th place, but he's got Tutti Boy alongside him on the exit. Up to speed goes Tutti Boy, and Roby HT looking to go past well. Oh, that's a little bit too much contact between the drivers, and Roby HT drops down a couple of places. Seems to be too many cars going into one corner then. And the Steps goes into the pits to serve his drive-through penalty. He's going to be very annoyed that happened. That's going to drop him right far down the race. He'll have to hope for a safety car. But Money Game. Oh, that's Jay Evans. Jay Evans is round. He's just held it. Wow, I thought he was going to face the wrong way. How he kept hold of that on the exit, I don't know. But the Ferrari drops from 2nd to 5th. He just survived it on the exit of turn 4. He clipped that curb. I warned everybody earlier before the race started. The curbs on this circuit are lethal in the wet weather conditions. So that brings Yuichi Toitier up to 2nd. JMB Surreal on for a podium. That synchronised sliding before Il Checho, and Jay Evans has gone round again. Oh, it's all gone wrong, and Il Checho is overtaking him. Tutti Boy's gone past, Jossing's gone past. It's all going wrong for the Ferrari. So Il Checho is in 4th place. Money Game is in 1st place. As it stands, 7 points Aston Martin were clear by. If it finishes this way, Williams will retake the lead of the constructors. So, Il Checho has got 15 laps to get himself onto the back of this leading duo of Money Game and Yuichi Toitier, who are in 1st and 2nd. You've got the AlphaTauri of Mello Bello in 11th place. You've got JMB Surreal on his own in 3rd. Not that I think he'll mind too much. And Il Checho's under pressure from Tutti Boy, who's having a great race so far, up from 8th place. In 5th position at the moment. Can he carry on that momentum? Sick Boy's there in 7th. Oh, Jay Evans is just trying to push. He's trying to catch up basically all the time that he lost, which isn't going to work out for him. But the fight at the moment, there's a couple of good fights on circuit. Jossing and Sick Boy. And Jossing has been overtaken by the Williams for 6th position. He goes through. You can see on your helicopter camera that Alfa Romeo of Tutti Boy just losing a bit of ground to Aston Martin of Il Cecco now. These are difficult wet conditions for the drivers to contend with. Jay Evans trying to get past Jossing, who's looking a little bit all at sea at the moment on his tyres. Now, one thing I've just need to mention here for everybody, if you're not aware, Il Cecco is on the intermediate compound tyres, and the Steps has also just come in for intermediate tyres. That's Italy Toy going round the outside of Money Game, side by side into the final corner. They make it through perfectly fine, and Italy Toy is in the lead of this race. Wow. The Williams of Money Game, who was on pole, has been overtaken by the Italian, who wants a second win to end the season off in style. As Roby HT pits. Look at this exit though from Money Game. That's a good exit. He's going to have the inside line for Villeneuve, and sure enough, he goes through. And they swap places again. That's a big fight between those two. Il Cecco is being caught by Tutti Boy despite being on a different compound tyre. But I've got to say, this is a great drive from the Aston Martin. He's kept it on the road. He might be 6 seconds behind the front two drivers, front two leaders, but he is well within a pit stop if they have to pit onto the intermediate compound tyre. I'm watching the Steps, I'm watching his laps, because he's obviously on the intermediates as well. He's catching the leaders. Now that is very fascinating. I'm just watching it through the corners, and yeah, he is just a little bit quicker than the wet tyres at the moment. Here we go, Money Game again having to defend. Roby's out. You see Toy is all over the back of the Williams in front of him, and he just can't get around him. Not sure what's happened to Roby. He's just pulled over to the side of the road. Into the pits goes JMB Surreal. He thinks it's time for the intermediates. And Il Cecco will be rubbing his hands with glee. He is in a brilliant position, providing he keeps it on the road as he nearly floats off the track. But the front two of Money Game and USA Toy T8, they are running in the lead, comfortably clear of everybody else. Might just work out well. Oh, look how close to the back of the Williams Money Game is having to use all of his expertise to keep that Alpine behind him. Must be deja vu for USA Toy TA. Just can't seem to get past the car in the race lead at the minute. But he looks very quick over the curbs. Clamps it once, clamps it twice. Right underneath. What great traction from the Alpine. He's going to be on the outside line again for turn number 17 on the brakes. Oh, they just about give each other enough room. Side by side, the final corner, they make contact. Money Game's on the curb. Italy carries on. Oh, that one will end up in the steward's room. And I think there could have been a little bit more room given by the two drivers. I'm not going to blame one or the other. But Il Cecco knows this. Here comes Il Cecco. He's got the exit speed. He's flying with ERS. And he blasts into second position. A couple of more drivers have bolted on the intermediate tyres. Sick Boy being one of those. His teammate's just been dropped out of first place. He's down to third now. Sick Boy goes for the intermediate tyres. JMB Surreal is on the intermediate tyres. But Il Cecco must be feeling quite pleased with himself because he's only got one car in front of him. And that car in front of him will need to pit if it gets lighter. We will wait and see as Gavra does a huge twitch out of turn 9. Elsewhere on track, there's gaps just all around the circuit, so the closest fight is between the Aston Martin and the Williams for second position. What do you do if you're Il Checho? Oh, there's a car. Cable Monkey just had a big wiggle out of the Aqua Minerale right-hander. That's obviously on the exit of turn 12. Il Checho is blasting a little bit of ERS, as is Money Game. But Il Checho doesn't really have to think about the cars around him. He's in a different race to them at the moment. Evans and Jossing both pit now. What I'm assuming is going to be the intermediate compound tyres for the pair of them. And it is indeed. Although having said that, Jossing's on the intermediates, I can't quite see what the Ferrari's on. As Scatcher moves into a point scoring position for the first time, and J. Evans is back on the wet tyre. Is that a Ferrari disaster class? I do hope not. I hope he selected the right tyre. Because if he's on the wet, oh, I do sincerely hope, for J. Evans' sake, that he selected the wets and not because of anything else. Oh, he's just trying to get his tyres up to the working temperature range he wants them to be in. Scatcher's running in the points though. What a story that would be. Last race of the season, gets his first points. Money Game is all over the back of the Aston Martin, as he has been for the last 2 laps. But he just can't get close enough to the back of that Aramco rear wing to overtake him, as USA Toy sets his new fastest lap of the race. A 1:27 around the Emilia-Romagna circuit, as Tutty Boy decides it's time for a new set of compound tyres. So the Alfa Romeo is going to go onto the intermediate tyres. This hasn't been as quick a change in terms of drivers jumping onto the intermediates as I thought. A couple of people just thinking maybe it's not quite ready enough in terms of the wet tyres. Maybe they think otherwise. Maybe they think intermediates a little bit too risky, because we've still got a good few drivers out there on the wet compound, which includes USA Toy, it includes Money Game, Milo Bello, J. Evans and Scatcher. Just trying to hang on to his car, but he's going to get overtaken by Sick Boy for 9th place. Now Il Checho is not catching USA Toy at the moment. Still running in 2nd place. He's losing a little bit of time lap per lap. Now, is the rain going to get any heavier? The rain looks quite heavy at this section. Money Game is all over the back of this Aston Martin. These 3 are so clear of Milo Bello, who's running in 4th place. He's yet to stop as Milo, but he's 20 seconds just behind Money Game and Il Checho alone. The front 3 are in an absolute planet of their own at the moment. Milo Bello's, by the way, up from 12th place. A really good drive so far. Scatcher's the only other driver outside of the top 3 who's not pitted yet, which has got him running in the points. I think the rain looks a little bit heavier at certain parts of the track. Coming down the main straight, just watching where the 2 AlphaTauris are, they look like they're in heavy conditions at the moment. Money Game is still on the rear wing of that Aston Martin. But then the other parts of the circuit, because of how the weather works around this region, the other drivers are just finding it a bit more tougher to close the gaps down. It's obviously heavier at different parts of the circuit in terms of the rain. As Jossing moves up to 9th place, and the steps is past Cable Monkey for 11th. I think Money Game's going to look at a move here. He is on the inside of the Aston Martin. Oh, he's had a little bit of contact. Just about survives it. Oh, I bet Money Game is having flashbacks there. He just can't seem to make an overtake stick, unfortunately. It's twice now he's had wheel-to-wheel onto the driver he's been battling with. He's lost a little bit of time there. JMB Surreal is past his teammate for 4th position, and Jay Evans is up the inside of Tutty Boy for 6th. Oh, lovely switchback from Tutty Boy, but he's just not quite there. It's very difficult to say what is the best tyre at the moment. I'm watching everybody around, and the wet tyres are overtaking the intermediates taking over the wet tyres. It's really, really difficult to work out what is the best compound at the moment. A lap ago, I was saying the rain looked a lot heavier. It looks lighter now where Money Game is out on circuit. That is so difficult to judge. It's definitely looking a lot lighter where Il Cecco is coming into the Variante Alta. Now, for UAT Toyota, this is just to give you an idea of how big his gap is to everybody else. If he were to pit, he'd still rejoin in 3rd place. He's 29, 30 seconds practically clear of the Alpha Tauri, and another fastest lap of the race from him. So he's very comfortable on his tyres. Il Cecco does a 28.5. UAT Toyota has just took a second out of the Aston Martin, so we are in this sort of crossover stage at the moment where you'd argue that the wet tyre could be the better tyre, not necessarily the quickest, but the better tyre, because it displaces more water. So it's a little bit more confidence boosted for the drivers who are on those wet tyres. However, that doesn't mean to say a little bit more water that gets displaced means that the intermediate becomes a quicker tyre, and it's better to be on that one. And I've just watched Il Cecco just set a fastest first sector of anybody, and he's dropped Money Game just on that first couple of corners alone by a second. Is it time? Is the intermediate tyre time now? Money Game is just struggling to hang on to the back of Il Cecco. I think Il Cecco's just found the sweet spot on those intermediate tyres. Looks like he's got the temperature back in them. Lap 11 completed, lap 12 we go on to for our race leader. That's a better sector time from Il Cecco. In fact, he was right with the fastest lap from USD Toyota, so are the tyres coming back to him? JB Surreal on the intermediates now, setting the fastest lap of the race. So the intermediate tyre, it's coming towards them. Now the field is a little bit spread out, but one fight that isn't is the battle for 6th place. You've been watching this for a couple of moments now. Tutty Boy is certainly a lot closer to the Ferrari of Jay Evans than he was before. Big slide, and round goes Jay Evans, and that's a front wing broken into the wall. Sadly for the Ferrari, he's going to lose all those places now. Scatcher's in the pits. He's fitting the intermediate tyres. He's going to drop out of the points, unfortunately. It's just not gone right for Ferrari today. In F1, in any case. Got the wrong tyres on. He's got no front wing, realistically, on the side of his car. That was all from the pressure that Tutty Boy was putting on him. Tutty Boy could be on for 5th place here. He's closing that gap right down to Milo Bello. He's had a very excellent performance this evening, has Tutty Boy. He's got 6th Boy with him, the 2 boys together. JMB Surreal with another fastest lap of the race. Really got the bit between his teeth now as the AlphaTauri. That's a car that is working in these conditions. He's comfortably fastest lap actually compared to everybody else. He's half a second clear, so if he's lapping about a second and a half faster than Money Game, that it's a huge gap between the two. It's about 16 seconds, but even still, with 4 laps remaining, you just don't know how the conditions could change again. Jay Evans is going to drop out of the point. So Cable Monkey nearly losing it at the final corner. That's a new nose cone change for the Ferrari. And Cable Monkey's coming into the pits as well, so maybe Cable Monkey is retiring. Now Jay Evans is just trundling down the pit lane whilst you watch the AlphaTauri. Is Scatcher, as Tutty Boy goes past Mellow Bello for 5th. Scatcher's going to get out ahead of Jay Evans. Oh my goodness, could Scatcher get a point? Oh, maybe not, because he's just picked up a time penalty. That's unfortunate. Mellow Bello, though, looking like a sitting duck now on these wet tyres. And the Williams of Sick Boy using a bit of the grass to get past. I don't think that's got as much traction as the tarmac. Sick Boy could get it stopped. Unfortunately for him, Mellow Bello took a bit of an odd line. Couldn't get past him. Mellow Bello is going to have to fight for all he's worth on these wet tyres. He's closing back up to Sick Boy. He's on the inside, but he can't break any later than that. Il Checho is closing that gap down corner by corner on Yusuke Toitier. It's just a question of whether he will catch the Alpine before the end of the race. JMB Surreal has been really impressive since he got those intermediate tyres on. Loads of penalties to be dished out at the end of this race. Il Checho is 6 seconds behind Yusuke Toitier as we go on to this penultimate lap. They are both pushing. Scatcher and Jay Evans are together on circuit in a fight for the last point. Oh, Scatcher's got it wrong and he loses out. Oh, it's such a shame. He's almost there as well. That would have been a story had he had got a point. Yeah, look at Il Checho. He's got so much grip on those intermediate tyres. He's got the gap down to 5 seconds on this lap. He's even quicker on the exit of the corners. Can he close the gap even more? I mean, it's getting drier lap by lap. Money Game isn't going to pit at this point. He'd lose his position. So JMB Surreal's got that gap down to 13. Actually, there's less than that now. 12 seconds. Il Checho is flying. Oh, Jay Evans picks up a time penalty. Not ideal. 1 lap to go. We could have a very tense finale. As Jossin goes up the inside of Mellow Bello, who's just struggling on those wet tyres now. It's too dry. Just going to have to make do to the end of the race. New fastest lap for Jay Evans, showing us what could have been here. As we start the final lap, Il Checho took about 1.5 seconds out of Yusuke Toitier. Unless he has any more left in those tyres, it looks like it's going to be going the way of the Alpine, who once again has got the strategy right. Money Game's going to run home to 3rd place. I don't think he'll mind that. With this final race of the evening. Yusuke Toys now 3 seconds clear of Il Checho. That gap is coming right down as he laps Jay Evans. 2.5 seconds now. This is unreal. I just don't think he's going to have enough time, unfortunately, as Il Checho. That gap just seems to have swelled out a little bit too far. But still, what a performance from these two. They have been in a different class this evening. It's going to be 2 corners to go for the Alpine. Just got to get through it safely. Doesn't need to push too hard out this final corner. And he doesn't. Just at the line. It's Yuichi Toitier who wins here at Imola. Big slide over the line. Il Cecco is second. Money Game is going to get a podium after all that. That's a good way to end off the year as champion. In third place in the Williams. Aston Martin win the Constructors' Championship as well, thanks to that result for Il Cecco. JMB Surreal, what a drive this was. He's going to finish in 4th position. Tutty Boy and Sick Boy are going to finish together, as it should be. The boys finished together at the start of the season. They'll finish it the same. 5th for the Alfa Romeo. He's got a time penalty, as does Sick Boy for that matter. So they're 5th and 6th over the line. Jocelyn will come home in 7th. The Steps has got past Milo Bello at the final corner on the exit. Milo Bello is going to lose out 8th place, but 9th in the end is a valiant effort. And Jay Evans will be the last of the point scorers. Skatcher came so close to getting his first points, but he just misses out in 11th. So it will be 10th position for the Ferrari, but it's Yuichi Toitier. That strategy call with the wet tyres not to pit in the end, the same for Money Game, was the right call for those two. And they reap the rewards. That is it for Tier 2 this season. Sick Boy gets driver of the day, and I'm sure he'll be pleased with that. But that is the end of Tier 2 on F1 22 forever. We still have more action to come later on this evening. I'll talk about that shortly. But we'll wait for the loading page to tick over on the game developed by Codemasters, of course. That's the celebrations on the podium. Yuichi Toitier, 2 wins this evening. Might have been involved in the championship had he had a little bit more luck, but it wasn't to be. So it's the Italian 1-2 with Yuichi Toitier and Il Cecco first and second. Money Game, the outgoing champion of Tier 2 in terms of outgoing into Tier 1, I'd expect for next season. Pole position in 3rd place is a good way to finish off your year. JMB Surreal is 4th, Tutty Boy is 5th, Sick Boy 6th, Jossing in 7th. Good result for Jossing in the Red Bull in the end. 8th for the Steps, 9th for Milo Bello. And I tell you what, the Steps getting 8th place a really good drive, actually, considering he had the drive-through penalty, which would have lost him about 20 seconds. That's a really good comeback from the Czech driver. Milo Bello 9th, and then Jay Evans in 10th place. Skatcher last of the finishers, so close to that first points position of the season, with Cable Monkey and Rover HT not classified due to retiring. Well, that is it from Tier 2. We're hoping to have some interviews. Whether anybody will join is another matter. I'd be surprised, really, unless it's potentially Money Game who might join us. Maybe even JMB Surreal might decide to join us. I'm not quite certain. But it would be nice to have a little chat with them before the end. Well, that was a really fascinating pair of races. The tyre compounds certainly played a part. We had 2 wet races in the end. Both a little bit different in terms of how they operated. But that's what you get when you compete in Gavra. Lots of exciting action for drivers to get involved in, to take part in. But we'll see if anybody joins us for any interviews this evening. They might not, to be fair. They might decide otherwise. But we'll have more action next season for Tier 2. Will be joining us on the F1 23 game, of course, developed once again by Codemasters and published by EA Sports. The evaluation race for the season start will be the 2nd of July, so hopefully it gives enough time for any patches to come out to help solve any issues there. The first round of the season will commence on the 9th of July, so that's less than a month away from now, at Australia, where we've got a very interesting calendar coming up for the year ahead. In fact, whilst we're here, let's talk about what that calendar is going to be for next year, because I'm very looking forward to that one. It looks like it could be a bit of a mix, really, for the drivers, using a couple of circuits that aren't particularly new. Well, two of them are new to the season. Of course, we start off with the evaluation race at Monza, then it's Australia for rounds 1 and 2, Qatar for rounds 3 and 4 at the Losail circuit. To watch MotoGP, you will know what that track's like, but for a lot of people who don't, that'll be new for them. Then it's Austria for rounds 5 and 6, Belgium for 7 and 8, and we finish the season off on the strip at Las Vegas. That'll be very exciting to watch, I'm sure. So we're just waiting to see if anybody joins us. I don't think anybody's going to join us for this season, to be fair, for the interviews, which is absolutely fine. I have no problem with that. I know Gav would love to have a chat with somebody for the end of the season, but I don't think we're going to get anybody. But whilst I'm talking about that, the registrations are now open for everybody to sign up for the new season ahead. You've got 4 weeks to do that, so get yourself involved with Gavra. It's not, of course, it's also about getting involved and improving. You know, we saw a number of drivers this season getting quicker as they went along. Cable Monkey, was one of those drivers who certainly improved as the year gone on. Scat just so close to getting those first points, but he has improved as well. And that's what it's all about. It's not just about league racing here with Gavra. It's also about getting that improvement, working your way towards maybe racing in Tier 1 potentially of Gavra Racing, or even competing further than that. Now, we have got someone who's joined us in for the interviews, which I'm delighted to say is the Steps VRBS, who has joined into the interviews area. Steps, you've got your microphone muted, so if you are talking, I can't hear you, nor can anybody else. But we will see if we can have a chat with him, the McLaren driver, who was a little bit of bad luck this evening, did the Steps. He was close to getting a podium in the first race, but of course the strategy call didn't play out, and then the second race, that drive-through penalty, and he has now unmuted his mic. So the Steps, can you hear me? If you can hear me, I can't hear you. Nope, he's muted his mic again.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Finally, thank God.
Hey, happy days. You had a pair of interesting races this evening. It seemed to be just not really go your way, almost through no real fault of your own. Tell us how it was out there.
Honestly, I'm just really bummed about the rain. I was not counting on being 2 races in the wet, which basically destroyed my race. But yeah, I tried to do my best. With the second race, my finger slipped off the clutch, and
No.
yeah, I had to do the drive-through penalty. Also, when I did the first real lap in the second race, I realized that wets are not the best compound to have at that moment, and also I had to do another pit stop.
Yeah.
And there I was 40 seconds behind the nearest car to me, and yeah, it was just salvaging everything I could.
Yeah, it certainly was a salvage job, but I tell you what, that reward of getting Milo Bello at the final corner must have felt good.
Yeah. When
We
I
did
think
catch
about
that.
it, yeah, it's drive-through penalty, a pit stop, and I just remembered I was pushed out in the first corner. Yeah, it felt great. I'm gonna be honest, it felt great.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, Steps. I think for you certainly had the pace the evening, and I think that strategy call in the first race where you went from intermediates to softs, I think just pulled you out of the podium fight.
Yes, it was a mistake to pit for softs when the track was just about to be uh, dry, so I couldn't get the temperature fast enough into the soft, so I could catch up to the others who haven't with it. But yeah, it was a gamble. It didn't work out.
Well, I mean that does happen, and it's always worth rolling the dice in conditions
Yes.
like that to try something different. I was going to ask you, in terms of next season, you've shown some good pace this season. You've been unlucky with your results. No race win. I know you've been close in terms of podium fights. What are you? It's a new game as well, so it's going to be a bit harder to judge it. But are you hoping for a podium or maybe a race win next season? What are you thinking?
I truly hope so. F123 is coming out.
Mm,
I am quite excited, and for the new season here at Gavra Racing.
yeah.
And yeah, I'm gonna try go for tier one
Hey.
next season, at least the summer season. So yeah, I will measure my skills against the best in here, and let's see where I can end up.
Brilliant, brilliant. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Steps. That's really appreciated. All the best for next season. I'm looking forward to commentating on you again because we'll be back next year, which will be great. And see you then.
It was my pleasure, and thank you for commentating. It was amazing time.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. So, oddly enough, we actually do have another driver who's joined us in the interview area. It's not actually a driver who races in Tier 2, it's a driver who's in Tier 1. Viper, I noticed you've joined the party.
Um, I wanted because after last time at Jeddah, I wanted to see if I can get quick interviews so you can, find out what happened throughout the race and etc. Because I don't know, I just wanted everyone to know that about the race because it's very controversial. By your point, I seen your stream. I think you were screaming at the end of the line, which was very um, interesting to see. But yeah, I just wanted to see my point of view on Jeddah. I know it's a bit late. It's pretty much an hour and a half. But to be fair, it's going to be difficult for Imola, from my point of view.
Hmm. What is your strategy for this evening, Viper?
So it's going to be interesting because there's a good chance of rain. I think it's going to be a rain either in qualifying or in the race. We hope it's for the race because it's going to be very interesting, and it's going to definitely show a lot of competition. But if it's going to be a dry race, then I'm probably will go medium hard, depending if I start first or second. But I'll see what my pace is in qualifying, and then I'll make a decision later down the line. But for Imola, I'm feeling quite alright. It's a decent track for me, and I feel quite confident that it will probably be. It's going to be very difficult to get a championship if it. I just need them to be like P8 or P9 or lower in the race. But and then anything can happen. You can spin, but hopefully it will be a very fair fight, and hopefully it will be a very good race at Imola, but it will be a very difficult one. From my point of view, I just need to get a win and see what Shortbread finishes. And yeah, it would have been this situation if it wasn't for 0.019 of a second, which sounds just absolutely mental, but it does happen. League racing can be quite tough. I have quite recovered from it. I was really annoyed at first, but yeah, I recollected myself and got back into the groove. But hopefully now I can try and get a lot more pace than last week. But yeah, we'll see what happens into Imola. But I'm looking forward to quite a lot of racing.
Absolutely, and just to confirm for yourself, Viper, so you know, if you win and take fastest lap and Shortbread finishes 7th, that is enough to give you the championship. So one more place more than what you thought it was in terms of 8th, which is maybe a little bit more reassuring. But I am excited to see how the conclusion of Tier 1 plays out in what will be about an hour and a half's time.
Yep. Thank you for the quick interview. It was a bit of a late time, but I just wanted just a quick little pre-race thought, as well as also post of Jeddah because you know that was a very controversial one. But I'll quickly just summarize it. It was very difficult, but yeah, anything can happen in these types of situations. But GG to Shortbread, and it was a very good fight. But now it's just heads on to Imola and just getting off the line now.
Absolutely. All right, well, see you later for the race, Viper. Thanks very much for joining.
Great, cheers.
So that is it in terms of Tier 2 on Formula 1 22 at Gavra race. And what a couple of seasons we've had here. And soon we'll be running over to F1 23 and driving flat out, no doubt, in a month's time when the evaluation race starts on the 2nd of July. I'm delighted to say that I will be back for next season with Gavra commentating on not just Tier 2, but also Tier 1. I'm Jack TM53 for those that don't know. So I'm looking forward to seeing all of the action and commentating on the spectacle once again. But from all of us here at Tier 2 within Gavra, thank you very much for watching this season. We will be back at 8 p.m. British Standard Time, 9 o'clock for anybody who's based in Europe. And this, of course, will be on the Twitch channel, so do check us out. But from all of us here at Gavra Racing, thank you very much. See you in an hour and a half.